What do you mean it's common for husbands to take their wife or girlfriend on a freaking hike and leave them? What do you mean that's common?
So there's a new term going viral on TikTok right now, and I guess the internet in general. It's called Alpine Divorce. And while it might sound like something totally new, it's more common than you think. The term Alpine Divorce comes from a fictional short story written in like the 1800s or something by Robert Barr. It's a story about a guy who comes up with this plan to, it's too early in the video to say anything other than unalive, but he makes this plan to unalive his wife by going out into the wilderness with her and pushing her off a cliff. Again, fictional, but the name of the book being An Alpine Divorce has translated into a term that's being used to describe the very thing that happens in the plot of the book. I've never read the book, but apparently there's like a twist at the end and stuff. I don't know. Y'all can read it for yourselves. But you might hear about this and be like, that just sounds like some crazy like true crime thing. Like maybe it's only happened once or twice in history. Like, no, and it's happening today. And the reason we're talking about it is because a woman whose TikTok handle is Ever After Aya posted this video on TikTok that is currently, as I'm filming this video, up to 21 million views and counting, with hundreds of comments from other people who have experienced similar things. The idea of a man taking their partner out into the wilderness on a hike up to a really tall mountain with the intent to leave them there, and oftentimes hoping that they won't make it out of the woods or off of that peak of that mountain. Sometimes there are life insurance policies involved in that, and the idea is that the people who are doing this, you know, they're hoping that there'll be some plausible deniability. Oh no, she fell off the cliff, it was an accident. Oh no, she went off the trail and I lost her and it was an accident. Like, that is the intent. It is often for fragile men who don't want to go through a divorce because that will ruin their social standing, it'll ruin their financial standing. They don't want to go through that. It's easier to just push your wife off a cliff. Or, I don't know, like people who just are incapable of breaking it off with someone, so they're like, how about I just leave them in the forest instead? I know I'm laughing. It sounds ridiculous to say it out loud. Like, who is that emotionally stunted where they feel like that's what they have to do instead of just ending a relationship the normal way? Anyway, so what? Someone went viral for this recently? Like, how much does this really happen? It's wild, actually, because just a few weeks ago, this dude was convicted on February 20th of this year, although this happened back in January of 2025, so the trial just concluded. But a 37-year-old man left his 33-year-old girlfriend on Austria's tallest mountain. She ended up freezing to death. She had hypothermia, and he got convicted of negligent manslaughter. There's the plausible deniability. Obviously, he's still in trouble, but they can't like prove, you know, what his intent really actually was. And the worst part is he only got sentenced to 5 months in prison, and that time was suspended, meaning like the time he had already served in prison counted towards that 5 months. So he basically didn't have to go back to prison at all because he was in prison awaiting trial. And he was fined 9,600 euros, which is a little over $11,000 in American money. And it's like, okay, dude, you basically got away with murder. Congratulations. And then there's this other story. Toni and Harold Henthorn. Harold pushed Toni off of a cliff, and he also killed his first wife by letting her be crushed under their car. Again, it seems like this guy knew how to get away with murder because of plausible deniability. And actually, there's a famous case where the roles were reversed here. It was actually a woman who pushed her husband, brand new husband, they were married for like a week, off a cliff. Jordan Linn and Cody Johnson. For all those true crime stories, I'm sure you can look them up on YouTube. They've probably all been covered by true crime YouTubers and stuff if you want more information. So yeah, it's kind of no wonder why this is more common than you would think. There's probably a lot more cases out there that were prosecuted and turned into no conviction because of plausible deniability. Like, how many times has this gone through and worked and the person got away with it? Thankfully, a lot of the times people do survive this, and that's why we're talking about it today, because of that TikToker I was telling you guys about, Ever After Aya. So yeah, she posts this video. It's got 21 million views, but what we're gonna watch next now is her explanation for what happened. Thankfully, she made it back safely. She survived. And as you could see through that first video, like there were other people on that same trail. So it's not like she was like completely left alone, but this does look like a deserty area. And even this time of year, being from Arizona myself, I don't know if this was California, New Mexico, wherever it was, but it's still like a deserty area from what it seems like. It can still get really hot this time of year. You can't just like leave people on the peak of a mountain in the middle of the desert. But she does have this TikTok that we're gonna watch where she explains exactly what happened. Well, first, actually, there's this video, real quick, it's only 10 seconds long, but it says, "Update, I made it back safely. I was repeating affirmations to calm myself and he told me to keep brainwashing myself." Throw that man in the garbage. Oh my God. Anyway, here's the follow-up video.
When we got to North McCullough Wilderness, he started hiking, and maybe 10 minutes in, he sees other hikers ahead of us. He says he wants to beat them to the top. He said we should run, and I remember thinking, why are we racing strangers to the top of the mountain? At the time I was feeling bold, so I said okay. I had a bulky black jacket on and my camera bag, so I stopped for maybe 30 seconds to adjust it. When I looked up, I couldn't see him anymore. Called his name, nothing. Screamed his name. He did not turn around. I didn't panic at first because I thought he'd eventually turn around when he saw I hadn't caught up to him. I never heard a silence that loud. 30 minutes later, he calls me back and says, "Where are you?" I'm like, "Where am I? You left me." He goes, "Why would you keep walking, you stupid?" And he hangs up. That was the moment it hit me. He did not care I was alone. I started crying. That's when I got out my Ray-Ban glasses and I started recording because I never wanted to forget this moment.
Right now, I'm walking alone.
I was just hurt. I was so hurt. I didn't see him for almost another hour. I had to ask a random man if he had seen him. When I finally found him, he was laughing. He said, "Good job, you found your way." Then we're climbing up the steepest part of the mountain and we see these ancient petroglyphs carved into the rocks. He's fascinated. He wants me to look at them. I'm taking pictures and videos of the sky, the mountains, and the view, trying to ground myself, and he starts laughing, calling me corny for taking pictures. I call him the same exact words he called me earlier. He loses it, and he says, "I'm not taking you back home." At that point, I start following him because, yes, you are taking me back home.
She also posted this picture of them. She said, "For everyone asking, this is him." I don't know, any man who treats a woman like that, especially supposedly the woman he loves, the person he's in an intimate relationship with, if you're gonna treat them like that, like, you are very clearly insecure. Like, get help, dude. Anyway, do I think that he was intentionally trying to murder her? To kill her? No, I don't think so. I think he was just being a douche. I think he didn't realize the harm in what he was doing because he's an asshole and probably has no empathy in his entire body. Even the picture that she's showing on screen here, like, that's so pretty. I would take a picture like that too. To be called corny for just like enjoying nature, like, if you're gonna make a hike like that, because that's a pretty steep mountain too. Like, clearly you must like being out there. You must like hiking. You must like being in the wilderness and stuff. And it's like, yeah, of course you're gonna take pictures of it and you're gonna call her corny? Like, that's nasty. Anyway, I do want to go back to the original video real quick. Oh, it's up to 22 million views now. Holy crap. I want to read some of the comments, mostly because there are a lot of people in these comments that are sharing similar stories, which makes this whole thing like so much more fascinating. That, like, personally, I've been hiking with men before and no one has ever left me behind. As a matter of fact, my friend RK, who may or may not be watching this, I don't know. I think he still watches my videos, but he came out to visit from New Orleans and I took him on a hike on one of the harder mountains out here in the Phoenix area to scale. But I had my son, who was 4 at the time, and I was like, I can't carry him up the mountain. So RK carried my son up the mountain so we could all keep up together, and that's some good stuff. Like, my husband, every time we hike a lot, we camp a lot, and my husband is always the one carrying my son because, like, I have a bad back and he's heavy. So there are plenty of good men out there who will go on a hike with a woman and wait for her. This isn't one of those situations that's like all men are like this, and I don't don't even want to say it's always a man because there was that one girl. Anyway, this person says finding out there's a support group for women who have been abandoned while hiking with a partner is soul crushing. And yes, this is real. There are actual support groups for this. That's how common this is, and that's crazy. This one's wild. I had a boyfriend leave me on the hike out of the Grand Canyon. A very nice man from Norway helped carry my pack and walked with me. It took me 12 hours to walk out. Dude, like, Grand Canyon hiking is like a bucket list thing for me. You have to be really, really in shape for that. And even if you are really, really in shape, like, it's still a tough hike. Like, I have friends who have done it and it's not easy. People like lose toenails and stuff just by hiking it. It's nuts. At least that's a place where, like, there's people who do hike that trail and you probably would find someone along the way. But still, though, to leave someone at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, throw that man in the trash and call the police, dude. This person says, my boyfriend did this to me. I found another hiker to show me how to get back, and then I went home and blocked his number. Good. This person said it happened to me many years ago. I met two girls on the mountain and told them what happened, and we walked down together. They wouldn't let me go alone. I'll never forget them. Girl, I've been there. My ex did this on Sunset hike. I cried for hours in the dark until I found my way back. He said he knew where I was the whole time. I was terrified and had no clue where I was going, and I had no signal. It's so cruel to do that to somebody. Right. It's like, what? It's just cruelty. Especially if you're knowing where they are the whole time and watching them or whatever, like, then the only point of doing this is just cruelty. Because even if she's not actually in danger, like, she thinks she's in danger because you freaking left her. I got left alone in the forest once, lol. Had to walk back 2 hours by myself after he drove off. Never spoke to the motherfucker again. My friend got abandoned by her partner on a trail, and she goes hiking consistently now with her own dog in hopes of being there for any women who have the same thing happen. You're strong. Oh, fuck this. My husband left me on Fremont Street while I was very drunk. No one deserves to be treated this way. If you've ever been to Fremont Streets in Vegas, I mean, depending on when you go, it's like packed. There's a lot of people there. Honestly, a lot of the people there, like the ones who aren't tourists anyway, they're kind of sketchy people. Like, I feel like that would be just asking for human trafficking to happen out there or something like that, because human trafficking is big in Vegas. So like, if you're gonna leave your female partner by herself somewhere in Vegas, like, you're asking for her to just get picked up and shipped off. This happened to me too. The guy went up the mountains ahead of me. I was left wandering and something in me felt extremely hurt. Wasn't a good feeling. Knew instantly that wasn't my person. Never went back. This happened to me. We'd gotten into a stupid argument over nothing and he just took off. I lost sight of him and just hoped the car was still there when I got back. They don't care about us. This person says, hey, so this happens a lot. As a lone female hiker who's very situationally aware, know that we are acutely aware of you as another single female hiker. We are making a mental note of your condition and what you are wearing. Do not hesitate to ask another woman to chaperone you back to base, ever. Being there for each other is greater than the need to summit. No sister left behind. I ran into a girl a few years ago along the trail, clearly lost and terrified. It was the exact same situation as this, except it was about 100 degrees. First of all, you guys don't hike in 100-degree weather. What are you doing? People die here in Arizona by trying to hike in the summer. I understand maybe, you know, she started really early in the morning when it's like 80 or 90 degrees, like before the sun rises, but that's in the summertime. But it gets hot so fast. If you're expecting to be done with your hike quickly, can we not hike in the desert in the summer, dude? It's wild. My ex did this to me while I was pregnant. Oh my God. The comments go on and on. There's 20,000 comments on this. Insane. But you know what? This isn't the only one we're gonna look at here. Okay, so this was 6 days ago. Just so you know, I did not speed this up. She sped it up. Like, this is just how the video is. So unfortunately, she talks really fast, but story time.
I just found out about this thing called Alpine Divorce. I just found out about this thing and I realized I have experienced it and lived through it. So let's sit down. Let's talk about my Alpine Divorce. For those of you who don't know what Alpine Divorce is, it is a phenomenon where women are left alone while hiking with a man. There's maybe more into it. I literally just ran across it. I'm going to set the scene because I feel so good knowing that I'm not alone in this experience. It's 5 years ago. Someone I met online, a guy that I really liked, asked if I wanted to move him from Idaho to Southern California. I said, yes, that sounds so fun. We're gonna do a road trip all the way to Washington down. And I still think I saw such beautiful things on this trip. But there's a kicker. He needed me to drive his stick shift truck across while he drove in a separate car, and I followed him. Okay, now I know how to drive stick shift, but I live in a very flat place, and I've driven stick shift maybe a handful of times, but I felt confident enough that maybe I could refresh my skills and do it. There were multiple times on this trip that I did stall out, especially on hills in San Francisco. That was crazy. Where I experienced my Alpine Divorce was in a 10-day trip or something, maybe less. It could have been 7 days or something. On this trip, about past halfway through it, we go to see the Redwood. I think it's a national park, Redwoods National Park, right? And I'm driving behind him, and all of a sudden, I've lost him, and I'm in a car that I don't really know how to drive that well, and I'm like, where is he? No big deal, I'll call him, right? No signal. I drive around Redwoods for 35, 45 minutes by myself. I'm freaking out. I'm thinking, okay, maybe we just lost each other, whatever. I finally get out to the highway, out of the park and get onto a highway, get some cell service, and no text, no call from him, nothing. No, hey, where are you? I could have drove off with this man's car. Nonetheless, I call because I was very naive at this time of my life, I'm very young. I call. I'm like, hey, we must have lost each other. Like, where are you? And he's like, oh, I'm here. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, where's that? It's on the opposite end of the park. So we have to drive up, meet each other, no cell service, nothing. I think I actually had to meet him somewhere, or I got off on the highway. He was like 4 miles, exits down. It was a whole fucking thing. I'm across the country meeting a stranger, and you abandoned me. Turns out he was driving different routes through the park so he could take pictures of his truck. I like to take pictures. Here's the picture I took at Redwoods, actually. But yeah, we eventually met back up. No surprise that this did not end up well. When I got back to my original state, like ghosted, not me, like he ghosted me. I was also very young, okay, but keep that in mind. But he ghosted me. We did not speak again. It was a very bad ending. And there were multiple times throughout the trip that he would just leave me somewhere. Just fucking leave me. And we're seeing like all these beautiful places and everything. I'm like, well, I guess I'll just sit down and enjoy it by myself. I did not realize there is a name for this term, and it is like literally abuse. I did not know this. I thought this was a unique experience. I'm like kind of sad, but also like so relieved to know that I'm not alone in this. Like, this is insane.
Someone's gonna get mad at me for saying this because they're gonna be like, wow, so judgmental. But if you have a man who likes to take pictures of his car in multiple places, like, oh, let me get out and just take this picture of my truck, that's always a red flag. I don't know why. The worst men that I've ever encountered are people whose social media is just like a ton of pictures of their car. I don't know, watch out for men who only like to take pictures of their car. Like, if you go on a social media and there's no picture of a dude's face, but it's all their car, and it's like, it's not like a car Instagram, it's like their personal Instagram and all it is their car, stay away. I'm just saying, the worst men I've ever met are those people. Anywho, this person says, someone I met online. Okay, great, let's not do that. True, especially if you haven't met them in person before. This guy needs to be left in the freaking wilderness. He says, what's the problem? The girls chose the bear, and the guys gave them exactly what they wanted, and the guys chose their peace. You can't treat someone like shit and expect them to stay with you. How do you know she was treating him like shit? What are you talking about? Yeah, we choose the bear because of shit like this. Like, this guy, like, clearly doesn't understand the whole, like, we choose the bear. Tell us that you have, like, zero critical thinking skills at all without saying it. Tom Bell. Shut up.
Are sharing their stories of Alpine Divorce, which is basically when you go on a hike with someone, usually a man, and they leave you there stranded, or try to leave you there stranded. And I have a story about that. Back in 2022, I briefly was casually dating a doctor, and he asked if I wanted to go on a hike, and I was like, sure, but only if we get a hamburger after, because I love hamburgers. And so we started the hike, and he was joking with me about how if I eat hamburgers, I'm gonna get so fat. And then he started talking about his mom, who had worked cleaning houses her whole life and put him through medical school, was getting fat. And he was like ranting about it and how his mom would like hang up on him if he talked to her about how she was getting too fat. And I interjected and I was like, shouldn't she get to decide what she eats? She's worked so hard her whole life. And he got furious at me. He started storming ahead on the trail.
First of all, this is why women choose the bear. Because a bear won't call us fat. You see what I'm saying? Especially like eating a hamburger after a hike. You just burned so many calories. You have to replenish your body. Like a hamburger that's like, you know, like a, what are they called? I know Jimmy John's has like the unwich, you know, like protein style. They take the bread off and wrap it in lettuce instead. That's not unhealthy. I mean, if you eat too much red meat, it can be unhealthy, but like, I mean, you could do it that way. A hamburger doesn't have to be unhealthy. There's just a lot of carbs, but you just extended yourself physically. Your body used up a bunch of carbs. Like, yeah, replenish it. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. He's a doctor. He should know that. Like, you can't just do like crazy exercise, get all that cardio, run up and down a mountain, and then just like not eat. Or what? What are you gonna do? Just drink a protein shake and call it a day? Like, no. You need to replenish your body. Like, that guy's just an asshole. Especially calling his own mother fat, which obviously we've never seen the mother, but we don't need to. Like, women, once they reach menopause, like, we gain weight. Our bodies go through major changes. It's really hard to keep weight off, especially when our hormones are doing all the shit that they're doing. Like, that guy's just an asshole. He's like, I'm a doctor, so therefore I deserve a trophy wife kind of shit. Like, ew, throw that man away too. Anyway, let's keep going with her.
Ranting about how Americans are too fat and women are too fat. And at that time, a jogger had passed us, and that jogger heard this man ranting, backtracked, came to me, and kind of mouthed, "Are you okay?" I was like, yes, but that was also my signal to leave. And there was like a shortcut off the trail to the parking lot, and I just started walking on it. And the doctor chased after me. He was like, where are you going? Where are you going? And I said, to go get a hamburger. And I did. So the happy ending is the girl got her hamburger, and left the man.
I mean, it's not like she abandoned him, but she was just like, I've had enough of this shit. Great. Okay, this one's actually wild. This is on Threads, so it's a text post, so I will read it. My ex-husband left me in the middle of the ocean. We were driving in San Martin, and he left me and swam back to the boat and convinced them I was on the boat. We were exploring a shipwreck, and I turned around to find him, and he was gone. Came up to the surface, no boat, no land, nothing. I had a compass on my gear, so I started swimming. Eventually, came upon a catamaran and they took me back to port. I couldn't possibly respond to everyone, so here are some answers. 1, yes, attempted murder, but he and the boat crew and the police all decided it was a big mistake and that it was probably my fault for not paying attention. 2, if you've never been in an abusive relationship, you cannot speak to this and ask why I didn't leave. 3, when I tried to leave, he actually tried to kill me with his own hands in my home in front of one of our children. 4, the final attempt on my life, he was arrested. Felony attempted murder. This charge was eventually dropped to a misdemeanor. He was fined $258, sentenced to pick up trash on the freeway for a few weekends in an anger management class. 5, you can see the system in action right now. Absolutely no consequences for violence against women and children. 6, no book and no movie. She's an author, I believe, so I think they were asking if a book was written about it. I don't know. 7, I did not him and he is remarried last I heard. 8, I divorced him over 20 years ago and this happened in 2005. 9, he was a business owner and everyone loved him. 10, believe women, period. Yeah, so like this Alpine Divorce thing doesn't have to be on a hiking trip. This dude tried to abandon his wife in the middle of the ocean. Like that, yeah, how is that not attempted murder, dude? But again, these situations all have a level of plausible deniability. So it's hard to prosecute attempted murder when what I'm reading here seems like that's obviously what was going on. I will have all these links in the description of this video too, so you can go through like and read all these comments because there are people who have similar stories, which I don't know if most of them would be considered Alpine Divorce, but I mean, they're still messed up of just like kids being abandoned. Oh my god, I can't even read that shit. It's just awful. I also found a couple Reddit threads about this, so here are some more stories. It's wild how common this is. So this Reddit thread, it's on the 2X chromosome subreddit. It's called A Terrible Thing That Happens Often Enough. It's been coined Alpine Divorce. They're just talking about that video that went viral that we watched first. But I want to go through these comments because again, there's a bunch of people telling their stories here and these are pretty wild stories. Reddit user TFlexercise says, once when I was a teenager, a boy I thought was a friend went with me on a hike in the woods, and as it was getting dark, told me he wouldn't show me the way home unless I showed him my boobs. I refused, and I don't remember what I said to convince him to walk home, but I do remember that he did that incredibly annoying thing men do where they walk really fast ahead of you and don't ever look behind to see if you're okay. So I flashed him behind his back. And then someone responded, rage flashing. I love it. Right. That's the petty stuff we live for. Glad this person's okay. Lucky Ducks says, my ex-husband did this to me so many times when we were backpacking. I was a much less experienced alpine hiker with asthma, and he was more concerned about covering as many miles as possible than my safety. This girl that time says, my husband and I own an outdoor gear and clothing shop in Colorado. We regularly plan free community hiking, backpacking, and camping trips. We are big-time hikers and backpackers and have gone on hundreds of trails. We see this frequently. So frequently, we have a code name for this kind of guy. We call him a ditch douche. Last summer, we met a gal whose boyfriend told her that they were going to do a difficult hike. He didn't fully disclose it was a mountain summit. He left her on the side of a mountain in a scree field. We came across her and shared sunscreen, snacks, and extra water. He'd been gone for over an hour, and she was hungry, scared, and totally unprepared. I really hope she dumped him. My husband has never once left me on any trail. This is a red flag if a guy does this, but we've seen husbands leaving wives, girlfriends, and especially girls who have only been dating the guy for a short time. And then another user adding to this, being left in a scree field isn't just rude, it's life-threatening. If you lose your footing or get disoriented, that hour he was gone could easily turn into a search and rescue situation. A partner who prioritizes their summit time over your literal survival has already told you exactly how much your life is worth to them. Someone else responded, and then he'll tell the police she was right behind me, as if he even bothered to look back. This is an interesting comment. This person said, I really don't think it's about their their summit time, it's just about control. I think so too, especially if they're not actually trying to unalive you, you know? This is interesting. My ex did the opposite to me on our honeymoon. We had signed up for this 6-hour volcano hike, and in the months prior to our honeymoon, had been trying to train and get in shape for it. We were with a big group that had 3 guides for about 40-ish people, advanced, moderate, and leisure paces. My ex wanted to stick with the advanced group, but after about an hour, I was struggling to keep up, and I was having trouble breathing. It felt like I was breathing underwater, and like I couldn't expand my lungs enough to get a full breath. I told him this repeatedly, but he kept yelling at me to keep going, and saying we were getting left behind, and that he couldn't believe I was acting like this because we'd been running miles every day for months at this point, so there was no reason for me to act like this. I did make it to the top and back down with the advanced group, but it got to the point where I screamed, "Fuck off, I can't motherfucking breathe" at him in front of the group. I had COVID. That's why I couldn't breathe. And I didn't find out until 6 days later when we were back home and he started feeling sick and wouldn't get out of bed. I climbed a volcano, but he couldn't even walk to the kitchen. Anyway, that, among other abusive behaviors, is why he's my ex. Her honeymoon too, like that was one of their first experiences as a married couple. Yikes. A few years ago, 2 friends and I climbed a mountain in Wales called Tryfan. It's not enormous, but a challenging scramble at the top. Let's just say me and my other friend were pretty scared at the scramble over the ridge. At the top, we met this poor woman who was basically trapped because she was too scared to go further, and her husband had already gone ahead and left her there. People actually die on this mountain too. We were all shocked and disgusted for her. Yeah, see, that's like Alpine Divorce. Like, she could have freaking died. Disgusting. My ex-husband did this to me on our honeymoon in Europe. I was 21 and we were in foreign countries with limited cell service. I asked him so many times to stop pushing through crowds or walking fast because I couldn't stay with him. He didn't. Fast forward, he always did this on hikes. We had kids. He would walk ahead saying if we kept dawdling with the kids, they'd never learn to keep up. I was always left taking care of them on the hikes, which often ruined my day as I'd get so sad and mad wondering why he couldn't just enjoy being with us. Fast forward again, surprise, he cheated, we divorced. He's always been selfish and always will be, it seems. I would never wish I didn't have my kids, but I wish I'd seen the signs sooner. Oh, okay, this is really sad. I remember reading this one. When I was 12, my stepdad, who didn't like me, told me to get on the ski lift and get off at the top, and he'd meet me up there. I got off at the top, a double black diamond run, and he was nowhere to be found. It was also the last lift of the day, which he knew. 2 hours later, a ton of onlookers cheering for me and shouting to go sideways down the slope rather than head on, and he was standing next to my terrified mom and 3 younger siblings laughing his ass off. A few years later, I got a restraining order against him after CPS removed him from the house, and he started stalking me. I guarantee most of these guys get a huge kick out of leaving women, specifically to fend for themselves or die. To do that to a child, like, that dude needs to be locked up. There was also one more that I saved on another Reddit thread that I found. This person said, I also searched Reddit after seeing this on social media. This dude took me up to the top of a mountain at night on his motorcycle and then drove off and left me there. He eventually came back for me, but it was terrifying and humiliating, just the sense of powerlessness. There's this article on USA Today where they interviewed a psychotherapist specializing in narcissistic abuse. And this therapist has quite a few good quotes on here. So I just want to read what it is she says. Her name is Stephanie Sarkis. She says that she has had clients who have unfortunately experienced this. She says an Alpine divorce can be deeply traumatic, causing immense mental and physical distress. I've seen it a few times, Sarkis says. For a lot of people, that's their worst fear, being in an environment where we don't have control over what's going on and being abandoned somewhere. I think we all have a fear of abandonment to different degrees. Being out in an area that you do not know, where there's wildlife, where you could easily get lost, especially if it's unmarked, that's a real fear for people. As it should be. Like, unfamiliarity in a place that's like physically challenging to get to and to get out of, to be left alone in that, yeah, that's scary and that's messed up. Now, of course, there are some people in these comments on all of these videos I've shared today on all of these Reddit threads and stuff where some asshole basically saying, well, why wasn't she more prepared? You should have brought more water. You should have had some survival tools with you. You don't expect to need that shit when you're hiking with other people who shouldn't be leaving you behind. And quite frankly, one of the number one rules when you're hiking is that the pace is set by the slowest person. There was a reality show on CBS a few years ago that I remember watching, which is like, it was a good show idea. It wasn't executed well, let's just say that way, but I think it was called The Summit, where it was like a reality show where they did end up having to like vote people out who were dragging the team down and stuff, or even then towards the end it got like competitive, like they were trying to get rid of your biggest competition, but at the beginning, it was in the rules that they had to stick together. They weren't allowed to abandon anyone. So a lot of times, the more physically inclined, more experienced hikers would, you know, go running off, and people would be like, we have to stay together. Like, we're gonna lose this if you guys keep going. And then they would inevitably vote that person off when they get to the next checkpoint. And it's like, because like that is the point of hiking together in a group. Like, you have to stay together. People die if you don't. And obviously the summit was like an extreme hike. It was like in New Zealand or something, up like snowy mountains and extreme weather and all those things. But I just can't imagine being so, would it be like competitive where you're like, I just need to get to the summit and I need to have time at the summit and blah, blah, blah. Like, to care more about that than like the safety of those that you're on the hike with. Maybe narcissistic, I don't know, but I mean, that in and of itself is a personality flaw. Like, people who do that, like, that's probably not even their biggest red flag. They've probably got a bunch of other stuff that they're needing to deal with in their lives, dude. But long story short, this happens. I think this is more common than most people realize, you know, because I'm a true crime junkie, and I had heard of, at least I had heard of the one where the guy pushed the wife off the cliff or whatever. I think 48 Hours might have had an episode about that. But I guess you just don't realize that there are people out there who are just like, you're too slow, bye. Or, you know, they'll get in a fight and then run off and like leave someone stranded. It's like, you can't just do that. Reckless endangerment at best, you know, attempted murder or full on at the worst. It's a very unfortunate circumstance to be put in, and yeah, I hope that these people coming out onto the internet and telling their stories, and then I hope that this video that I'm making right now contributes to the exposure around this. You know, if you're gonna go hiking, if you're gonna go camping, if you're gonna go out into the wilderness, make sure you're with people who you trust, people who you know care about you and care about your well-being. There's also trail apps and things that you can download that don't require Wi-Fi. Like, you can pre-download maps and stuff and have that there for you at the very least. You know, phones have compass apps and stuff like that. Like, being prepared in those ways, that's very important. Most normal hikes, like especially more populated areas where I live, you know, the places where I normally go hiking, like, they're a fairly easy hike. It's like you're up to the peak of a mountain in an hour and then you're down. You don't need like survival gear. You don't need hatchets and machetes and shit, you know, just make sure you bring enough water. But if you're really gonna go on an excursion that is not populated, you know, no one else is gonna be out there, you really gotta make sure you're with a group of people who care about you and that you're prepared in the ways that you can be. So yeah, I hope more awareness is brought to the subject now after this woman went viral. I mean, 22 million views is nothing to scoff at. So I think that's really great progress here. I'm glad we're all more aware of it, and maybe we can all start to see the red flags before something terrible happens. But anyway, that's where we're gonna leave it, guys. So before we end it here, we're going to have to say thank you to some people. The list of names I'm about to read off are my financial supporters. They get access to things like our private Discord server. We have a postcard club, early access to new videos, which this one pretty sure will have early access because there's no sponsor. I can just put it out when I'm done with it. Even more than that sometimes. So if any of that sounds good to you, you can go to patreon.com/SavannahMarie, or you can click the join button beneath this video here on YouTube to join my YouTube memberships. So just whatever works out for you best works for me. So with that, the biggest thank you in the whole wide world goes to Love to Be Evil, Canna Bay, Wendy Irons, AJC, Kim Nevins, Charcity, Luciana Valiente, Emily from Kansas, Hannah Moe, Alex Offbeat, Liz Sahu, Evan Adler, LaSalle Story, Fluffy Duckbutt 24, Ferd Turgerson Esquire, Just Mark, Alice Wagner, Fallon Harris, Jessica Billhart, Emion, Hula Chowdown, Jacqueline Nutton, Leanne, Kessie Drew, Marie Silver, Maddie Darley, Ray, Caroline Reed, and Sinead Maria Venus. And to the rest of my financial supporters, thank you so much for being here and being you. And even if you're not a financial supporter, thanks for making it to the end of this video. This isn't the longest video I've ever made, so your watch time is super important. YouTube will push it out to more people when you sit and watch all the way through. So I appreciate all of you being here who are sitting here and watching me say these words right now. So listen, man, the MLM world is a little dead right now. I also do kind of feel like internet drama is kind of dead too. So if you have any content suggestions that you want me to look into, feel free to leave them down below in the comments or send me an Instagram DM. I'm usually checking those. I'm really behind on DMs right now, actually, because I went camping over the weekend. And then before that, I don't know, I just had a really busy week. I'm just like super behind, but I still read them. I'm just like being really bad about responding to people right now. But yeah, any content suggestions, I'm happy to hear them. So thank you. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.